Welcome to the October 28th NJCAA Army National Guard webinar series. That's right, Army National Guard webinar series hosted by the NJCAA. I'm your host, Bubba Geddert. I am an ambassador for collegiate esports with Collegiate Sports Management Group, as well as an esports ambassador with D&H Distributing, and the executive director for Varsity Esports Foundation. I'm so glad you're here. We're going to have a great show tonight. We've got some really fun guests. I really love what they do in the community, in the space, Scholastic, and others. And so what I would like to do is show you a commercial, but you've already seen one. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Army National Guard, as we're going to have Corporal Flores jump in as well. He's going to jump in here shortly when he gets a chance to come in to talk a little bit about the Army National Guard. If you'll jump in, Corporal Flores, we'll bring you in now. We're doing a little early. And I know you use my link because you got my name on your. Oh, I love it. That's great. We're both Bubba. This is awesome.
In heart.
So we don't have a video today on the stream per se, but I'd love to hear a little bit what you guys are doing at the Army National Guard when it comes to working through COVID relief as well as natural disasters. What's going on there?
Yeah, so absolutely. We've been pretty busy. Unfortunately busy, right? Because of all these things that have come through, fires, floods, hurricanes, you name it. And it seems like it just gets a little bit tougher every year, unfortunately. However, as far as the National Guard, always ready to go and help and assist, people within our respective states and even other states, of course.
So the Army National Guard, not just, protecting, but serving, it sounds like. What
absolutely
is there other things going on in the United States that the Army National Guard is doing to serve and protect? I guess that's a police term. What would be a cool tagline for the Army National Guard? I don't even know.
Well, we do a little bit of everything. So it's weird when you say, serve and protect, which is what we do, right? And we help people at, whenever you see the news, you see something catastrophic happening, but we're actually there, boots on the ground, helping those people like you and like me that have, sometimes lost their homes, lost everything. And we're their last call, for hope. Essentially, we're there and we help them out. I've been fortunate enough to go and help out for different natural disasters such as Hurricane Harvey, and being able to provide food and water and shelter for a lot of these people. It's very fulfilling, and it really does give a sense of pride. Because at the end of the day, as an Army National Guardsman, you're a part-time soldier. So I live in those same communities, or I visit those same communities whenever I'm doing my regular civilian job. And, being able to help them out in their time of need it's amazing.
Well, thank you again for your service. If you're just jumping in now on the stream, this is the NJCAA Army National Guard webinar series. We've got some special guests today. Corporal Flores here is talking about the Army National Guard. We're going to jump into some building a team here in just a moment. But if you stick around within the next hour, we'll be transitioning this Twitch stream. And if you're here on the Zoom call, you can head over to twitch.tv/NJCAAE. And on that stream, you'll be seeing this right now, as well as in an hour, there'll be, I believe, some gameplay going on, and we'll tell you more about that as the night goes through. We do have a giveaway for Squad, and we'll be putting up some information about that in the chat if you go to twitch.tv/NJCAAE. Now, Corporal Flores, today's session is about building a team. I feel like we talked about leadership. This was October 7th when we were on here last. So this is our second one this month. And I think I've done 4 or 5 with you this year. But we talked about leadership last time. We talked a little bit about team building. When it comes to building a team, how do you see, first of all, when it comes to building a team, tell me how the Army National Guard does it.
So the Army National Guard's been around for a while, 1636, actually. It's quite a few centuries, right? One of the biggest things within the Army itself is we always begin from the bottom up. So whenever we build a team, we're normally quite a bit better than a lot of people because we're really good at being, team players, right? So you have to be able to take kind of orders as far as, hey, we're doing this collectively. So you learn how to be a good team player. So whenever you start managing teams, you know exactly what's going on and you see from all different perspectives. Because at the end of the day, it's like a coach, right? It's hard to be a coach if you're not a player. May not have to be for that respective title, right? Especially since we're in esports, but at least, you're a competitor, so you know more or less what you're doing or what your players might be experiencing, whether it's your traditional sports or esports.
Now, when we're talking about how to build a team, we're going to jump in a little bit more about gaming and esports later, but just give me a one top hit of how building a team in the Army National Guard could be similar to something in competitive gaming such as esports.
So with that one, I would reference it from my own experience. Actually, with Hurricane Harvey, we got to an area and it was, hey, help the people, right? So we have food, water, all these different things that we're offering, ice, and then we started, getting, things for, the children, certain medical things, right? So it's like, okay, how do we disperse this to people? So within the Army, we have a rank structure, right? So we're like, hey, we have a lieutenant that's in charge of the whole small operation there. Then we have our sergeants and then everybody underneath. So we kind of divvy up as far as management responsibilities of what needs to happen. And at the end of the day, we're all hands on deck as far as, making sure we're getting things done. How it relates to esports is no different from any young and esports organization starting, whether you're a club, at a high school, or at a university. It starts with getting a group of people together, right? Hey, you're going to run social media. Hey, you're going to run the streams. Hey, we need a Valorant team. How do we do that? Well, I play Valorant. Okay, great. Anybody else play Valorant? Then you go from there. How do we build a team, right? We need all these different roles, right? You have your duelists, you have et cetera, right? So then you start divvying up the roles and you start working out a process on how to identify the best of your group that is going to fit in those particular roles. So your scouting or your tryouts, which is something that a lot of times is overlooked, but it's very critical to have a good team right off the get-go and also have a list of alternates that can also jump in at any time.
Nice. Well, yeah, thank you for that. I'll bring you back here shortly. We'll talk more about gaming esports, and we'll definitely talk about video games for sure. So thank you, Corporal Flores. Appreciate you, sir. Okay, so if you're just checking in, NJCAAE, I've got an announcement here for you. If you want to stick around, it's going to be Nassau Community College going up against Pennsylvania Highlands Community College in the match at 7 o'clock Eastern. That's right here on twitch.tv/NJCAAE. That's 6 p.m. Central. And thank you again to Corporal Flores for being here. We've done a couple shows together, and hopefully, as we joke around, we haven't played Call of Duty together yet. But yeah, it's great to have the Army National Guard supporting efforts like this, especially in gaming and esports, where there's opportunities for them to come in and show students there's opportunities out there for them to have careers and serve their country, as well as federal funding. Federal funding is available for schools that schools get, and there's federal support. And why not the Army? So I'm going to bring in Donna Walters. Donna, you can unmute. Come on in. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Great. This is Donna Walters. She is an amazing lady. I've met her multiple times, different events and online. She is the founder of Cal State Esports Collective. How is it sunny, or is the weather okay there in California?
It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. Like always with California, right?
Yeah. It is so rainy here in the central part of the United States that my wife's flight in Dallas is delayed. So my kids are in the room watching some videos as Dad tries to do this without them yelling. So the weather is great here in what we like to call sometimes the belly button of America, where we get everybody else's weather.
So, well, hey, it's the pandemic, right? Like the era of pandemic, and we're all working from home, or at least most of us. We're starting to return to the office now. So I don't think that the kids are going to bother anybody if they do happen to barge in. So I'm sure you're going to be good.
So give me a little background, Donna. Give me a little background about you, because I know we've talked, but I want the people to know here on Twitch and Zoom what you do and why you are where you are now.
Absolutely. Thank you. So first, I'm super thrilled to be here. It's a lot of fun always to sit and chit chat with other folks about esports, specifically in the educational spaces, because, a lot of people think of esports as, oh, okay, it's just competitive gaming, but really there's a huge educational component that can be utilized and integrated with the fun of gaming, right? So we're looking at gamification. So first and foremost, my passion is really helping to grow our future leaders. That's really where it is. And I've noticed over the years that esports is really where it's at, because that is the key demographic for college students. I'm a gamer. You can see my wall o nerdy stuff here, my little Pepe, the pirate that accompanies me everywhere on my podcasts and speaking engagements. And so I love games myself. I'm a first person shooter lover or player. And really, when I went back to college, because I'm a returning student, or I was a returning student, non-traditional, which is the nice way of saying, I'm old compared to, the rest of the, teen 20 demographic. But I wasn't so sure if I was going to fit in. So I found my local gaming group, because those are my peoples, right? And found there was about 15 members in the club. And I have a background in community management and development. And so I partnered with the president of the organization. We grew exponentially, went from like those 15 to over 400 people in Discord over 2 semesters, which is great. From there, we really championed some initiatives through Big Sky Conference, which is our varsity athletic conference for Sacramento State, and then helped the California State Fair and championed an initiative they had for their inaugural tournament that they held at the state fair. And from there, really just kept going and spreading the knowledge of esports and education. And so now I founded the Cal State Esports Collective, like you said, which is bringing together all 23 of our California State University campuses together. Wow. And supporting esports at the district level. So that's really what I've been doing. It's a long thing, but it's in a nutshell compared to really what the whole story can be.
Yeah, well, the scholastic space and esports is definitely excited that you're in it, and I love what you do. Talking about team building and building a team, you obviously just talked about how you did that. When it comes to gaming esports, when it comes to scholastic, I mean, really anything we're talking about here, I know you have some really nice ideas that I like that you emailed me earlier today. The Tuckman's model for natural team high performance. You just tell me what this Tuckman's model is. I'd like to hear all about it.
Yeah, sure. So my background, or I received my bachelor's degree in human resource and organization behavior, right? And so a lot of that goes along with my passion of training, developing future leaders. And in that coursework, and I'm currently pursuing my MBA now in global business and entrepreneurship, which fits perfectly with esports. And that's the reason why I chose that path. But in the coursework, I've learned a lot about various team role theories, right? And so talking about Belbin's groups on separating groups into 3 different categories: thinking, action, or people-oriented classifications. People tend to fall into one of those 3. Honey's 5 key individual roles. So you're looking at, various roles like leader or challenger, doer, thinker, supporter. And we can go into some of those a little bit later too. But Tuckman, I love Tuckman specifically because he does the 5 stages of team development. So you're looking at things such as the forming, the storming, norming, performing, and even adjourning phases. And, it's great because it's not just guesswork, it's actual research and studies that have, gone into some of these areas, these models, right? So every single group will experience Tuckman's model when they come together. It's not linear, it's always fluid, right? So that means just because you start at one part and go through the different stages, it doesn't mean you're not going to go back. You're going to always go back at some point whenever things change in that group setting. So for those that don't understand or don't know what those stages are, the forming stage is basically the formation of new teams, right? So that's why you call it forming. People are unsure of their purpose, the fit, or even the environment, what their roles are. They feel anxious, curious, excited, and they're looking a lot at team leaders for direction. The storming phase is really when people get a little bit more comfortable and they start pushing against those established boundaries or rules, conflict, friction usually occurs in that. So you can understand why they call it the storming phase. And challenges, with authority and the management style or mission of that project or of the organization usually happen then. And then once you can get over that, and you get over that through effective communication, but once you get over that, you go to the norming stage, which is when you start resolving differences, appreciating each other's strengths, respecting the authority as the leader, and really show a stronger commitment to the team. And then you move quickly on to, the performing stage where people really are able to perform at their full potential. And when those groups separate, let's say somebody gets a new job, then people start getting into the adjourning phase where it's like, okay, that project's concluded, or, groups are now separating.
Yeah, I really like that. I mean, if you came here thinking we're talking about just video games, you came to the wrong show, because we are learning tonight. There are college esport coaches that watch these webinars. There are college esport student athletes, gamers, or as we'll learn the correct term here later when we get James on, for those athletes, and I'll let him snicker in the background. But when we're really talking about team building, I love tools. I will say I love tools like a RACI chart to organize people and what they're responsible for and accountable for and informed about, as well as this tool. This is a really great tool. Lastly, let's wrap up here, and then I'll bring you back in with the whole group here towards the end. Donna, is there effective ways to communicate when it comes? Have you seen, or let's just ask you, what are some effective ways you've been a part of when it comes to effective ways of communicating?
Absolutely. So paying attention to various personality types is one of the biggest components, right? And so you have personality quizzes that are out there, the Myers-Briggs, DISC, Big Five, True Colors. If you haven't heard of those, definitely go and look them up, because they really give you some great key insight as to maybe how you communicate versus opening up some channels and pathways to understanding how maybe some other people will communicate. So when it comes to effective communication, basically effective communication, that you've reached that when all parties involved are leaving the conversation feeling satisfied, feeling accomplished. It decreases conflict. So if you don't like conflict, like I don't like conflict, it's a great way to decrease conflict. And then it helps move everybody forward together in unison. So probably the biggest part is really understanding your roles and the expectations for the organization, or the expectations for your role. If you have two head chefs in a kitchen, they're going to overlap in responsibilities, and it's going to create conflict, right? So making sure you understand those roles. And then finally really like looking at trust, and there's one more thing, and it's just totally escaping me now that I'm thinking about it. But listening, that's one of the biggest components, right? Don't want to forget that. So keep your ears open and listen to really understand more than trying to return or argue.
Well, if you're checking in right now, we're here with Donna Walters, the founder of Cal State Esports Collective. And also, if you can see right here above me on the Twitch stream, there's a QR code you can click with your phone. With if you have a flip phone, it's fine. If you got an iPhone or something, just scan that code, and you can enter to win some really cool HyperX gear. But since we're talking about HyperX gear, we're talking about peripherals. Let's just go into a little bit this last part with gaming and esports. Donna, what have you seen in the gaming and esports scene when it comes to team building in maybe let's go this direction, in a not so effective way? Have you seen anything that maybe we should recognize that we should, I know this is off the cuff, but anything we recognize that maybe we learn from when it comes to gaming and esports in the collegiate space or pro space that you've even learned from?
Yeah. So there's, as we all know, it's kind of a budding space, right? It's been around for a while, but we're still kind of feeling things out. And one of the areas that people think that esports is toxic. And I, personally, yeah, there is some toxicity, just like any industry, just like any environment, but you're looking also at online mediums being heavily toxic, right? So it's not just esports, not just gaming, but you're looking at social media bullying, that's been a huge thing. And so looking at how we can maybe instill areas of respect and etiquette when we're online or in those online environments. Make eye contact with folks when we're having conversations. That's hard to do online, but if you're in a team building environment, then absolutely make those eye contact. Put your phone away, right? That's another great thing. Greet everybody. One of the things I really like to see is when we start treating each other like we have the power to give the other person, or the other person has the power to give us our next job, right? So I like to call that the VIP treatment. So when you're looking in these spaces, you know, really, we're looking at being polite and showing respect for shared areas and introducing other people when they come up to us and cue them into current conversations. And so that way it makes people feel like they're belonging someplace.
Yeah.
And that's one of the areas I love about this community. We do have a great sense of belonging. So it's not so much toxicity, I would say, but really remembering to be respectful and to, you know, hold good etiquette towards each other.
Right. Yeah, I love that you approach that. We're going to talk about that definitely some more. I know James and I'll have some to talk about that with, you know, equity, diversity, inclusion as well when we bring you back here in a little bit. But Donna, thank you so much for being Professor Walters, you know, teaching us some really amazing things today. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely.
All right, well, I'll bring you back in a little bit. Corporal Flores, why don't you jump back in? We'll recap a little bit. And, you know, I mean, golly, team building, communication, Tuckman's model is forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. I've really done a lot of team building myself over the years. And I'll tell you this, Corporal Flores, the team building that I did was our FCA director back in college, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. He got some team building stuff when he served his 1 week in the military because he got kicked out for some health reason or so. I don't remember what it was, but he learned like these boot camp team building activities. And so he has a whole ranch where it's team building activities we deal with student athletes and the college level. Is that
we still use those actually,
okay, right?
Both in person, and I just finished in order to become a sergeant, I essentially have to go through a basic leaders course is what it is. And we actually touched on a lot of the points Ms. Walters is saying, and I was like, hey, this rings a bell. But we obviously use the same things because we, you know, as a large organization, we need to make sure that we get the best leaders possible, and we help create and cultivate those within our ranks. And that's kind of a lot of what she's saying is, you know, what I found very successful. And so I essentially managed the U.S. Army Esports Rocket League team. We went, I think we got top 40-ish, about like top 42 for the RLCS Open qualifiers. Went up to day 2, barely missed day 3, and about same ranking, like about top 40 for the Intel World Open as well this previous summer, I believe. So that a lot of what she was saying does ring true, especially in esports is no different from any other, you know, sport, right? They're all athletes as well. So,
so when we're here, we're talking about team building. I mean, when there's students who could be watching this, you know, they're not forced to watch this, but if they are, there's some information out there that we can give them today when it comes to how can a career in the Army National Guard translate to what they learn from team building into their esports career or their, you know, professional career as any other role in the esports industry or outside the esports industry. What's something you see when it comes to team building that's translatable, that it can transfer these skills outside of the Army National Guard?
So one of the biggest things is when you're in the National Guard, you learn these as a part of you just getting better at your job and climbing up in rank. So you actually get hands-on practice as far as dealing with very different people, people that you might not share the same views with, but you're on the same team, right? Put on the same uniform, we have the same mission, and learning how to work together because, you know, in every game that we play, the best teammate that we have might not be our best friend, right? It might be someone that, hey, maybe they do certain things that you don't like and vice versa, right? However, learning how to work as a team is incredible. The biggest thing is experience. So even when you go to a civilian employer, having shown like even just that 1 week, right? That helped him and with the FCA to kind of build better teams. And that's just a little glimpse, right? Of what he could have learned throughout if he was able to continue.
Right.
So it's one of those things of you come out better. It's that experience that everybody wants, right? It's like, yeah, you have X degree, but they also want like 25 years of experience and stuff like that. So it's definitely one of those things that carries over. And the biggest thing, you know, we always recommend is use it as a stepping stone, right? Go in knowing what you want to do. If you want to pursue a career in IT, great. We have many careers like in the 25 series that, hey, are information technology of varying degrees, right? Some, are a little secret squirrel stuff, but to those where you get those certifications paid for by the government to be able to use that on the outside as well. And you're just stacking on top of your skills and obviously help you get your degree as well.
When I think about those team building activities you mentioned, and yeah, the career opportunities for sure, Corfles, that are really impactful and helpful for every one of us outside of the military as well. When I think about those team building activities that we did back in college that were learned through the military, I always think of the Forrest Gump movie, and obviously my name is Bubba, and I think of Buford Blue Bubba, and the Forrest, you lean up on my back and I'll lean on yours. That way you don't sleep in the mud. And I think about that because he would tell this story about what the foxhole was for. And I don't know if this is historic. If I'm telling this right, please interrupt me or wrong. Like, why did they sleep back to back in the foxhole? Because we had one activity where we'd have to, get back to back and raise and, do some sort of thing in a rope or whatever. But that back to back, I mean, how does something like that simple translate in those team building activities to everything else that stacks upon that throughout what you're doing in the military to life?
So the biggest thing is when you're dealing with people is learning to trust and rely on each other. So that's being able to say, look to your left and to your right and say, hey, I'm trusting you to be able to do this the same way you're trusting me. And even if you have little faults here and there, as long as you work together, you'll get through it. But the biggest thing is just having that trust. And I see it in esports all the time. And a lot of games, I mean, split second decisions have to happen all the time. And it's like, hey, trust me, I got this. And your teammate goes and clutches it, right? You're like, okay. So the back-to-back is more kind of a trust exercise. And it also teaches the biggest thing in team building, right? Is being able to have each other's back, literally.
Yeah. Well, Corporal Flores, thank you. I'm going to bring you back in a little bit. We'll hopefully talk about some video games, some more as well. And I appreciate you, sir. All right. Next up here, if you've just tuned in, just a reminder, what we're doing here is the NJCAA Army National Guard webinar series. I think this is the second to last one of the year that we'll be doing, and we'll do some more next year. The one in November, it's really exciting. There's going to be some exciting stuff happening. We can't tell you yet, so look out on Twitter and social media for the next one happening in late November, mid-November. But tonight, if you're on twitch.tv/NJCAA, there is an icon here. Let's see. Yeah, that side with a QR code. And that is a squad giveaway. That's the word I'm looking for. Now, if you want to join the squad giveaway, scan that QR code. You can have a chance to win a HyperX Cloud 2 headset, a HyperX Alloy FPS Pro keyboard, or a HyperX Fury 5 mouse pad. So if you've ever played any sort of game or done any kind of work with a mouse without a mouse pad, you definitely want one. So check out the QR code, NJCAA's squad giveaway. Thank you, squad, for that. Now I've got the third guest here this evening who doesn't really need an introduction, but I'm going to anyways. Mr. James O'Hagan, feel free to jump on in. He is the founder of the Academy of Esports podcast, the director of digital learning for Racine USD. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. And how are you?
Man, I'm always good when I get to see you, first of all, but when I get to be on the same panel or something with you, it just makes my day great.
Well, great. I'm glad I could be there for you.
So fill in the people here in the college space. I know you work a lot in the middle school and high school space, but when it comes to those esport coaches watching this stream or watching it recorded later, give us some really good information about why you're so amazing.
Well, first off, it's really important to realize that in this space, we have to think beyond the games. And when I started our first program when I was in Rockford in 2014, 2015, it was literally, let's get the games, let's get the kids going. We got to get this going. And that's it. And it was great, right? It was fun. We took pictures, the press saw us, and that was the end, literally almost the end of the story, because there was really nothing else that was expected. There were no other goals, nothing strategic. So when we look at the current state of our schools, there's several things that we are looking at now to build our esports programs around. And this is where everybody who has an esports program should look right now. So number one, when we are looking at our esports programs, we're looking to redefine our athletic culture. We realize that athletic culture in this country has had quite misogynistic overtones. People who have abilities versus those who don't have abilities are left out. But we also want to not only just redefine that culture, but diversify opportunities for student participation. So especially some of our most marginalized groups, especially I've done a lot of work with kids who have mental health trauma, a lot of kids who are trying to sort through their identities, if you will. And a lot of those traditional athletic spaces have not been spaces that have been necessarily kind to them. So really making sure that when we are looking at our programs, that we want them to be a cross section of our schools, not just the low hanging fruit kids, because when I think about our kids, I think about all the different opportunities that they have to participate beyond the games, not just doing that, but the social media aspects, the graphic design work. Even some of our kids are better coaches than they are players because they know the games, but they don't necessarily have the skill set, but they can still coach really well and assist our general managers. When we're looking at the collegiate opportunities and the career pathways that are involved, Nico Basambes did a fantastic graphic of the ecoverse, if you will, around esports that is of a potential. And then on the other side, we want to promote good mental and physical health. There is a mental health crisis in this country, and I see it every day with children. I work in my virtual program is grades K through 12. And it is from the oldest kids to the youngest. And there's a lot of trauma that a lot of our kids are living with every day, but also the physical health components, because a lot of kids don't think about esports as being a pathway for physical sports. But when you start to explain through the intrinsic motivation of game and gameplay, that physical health is an important component to your abilities to be a better gamer and subsequently to be a better student and subsequently to be a better person overall. So we are finding these ways to bring this all in. And finally, what we want to do is we want to honor the importance of play. And so when we're looking at our programs, we realize that play in schools has been something that has been lacking for many years, really ever since No Child Left Behind was passed in 2001, has play kind of been pushed to the side and left to, it's not seen as important as the core subjects or art or music or, anything of that nature. So when we design these programs, and the program that I'm in right now, Racine Unified, we have 5 different schools that are participating in our program. I'm also part of the Wisconsin High School Esports Association, Milwaukee Esports Alliance. We've been doing work at the state level to support our growing esports programs as well, and as well as our nonprofit association work. So this is all a culmination of again thinking beyond the games, about thinking what this can be. And what I'm starting to see right now in this sphere of things is we're starting to see, there's some interesting things that are starting to pop up, especially between collegiate and K-12. I know we want to lump, scholastic together, but really what's interesting is like, for example, I just talked about how we're trying to bring in all students. And when we look at the collegiate scene, what do we see? We see that the scholarships are still going to white men. We still, and it's by design because colleges have a declining male enrollment problem. So their idea is we want to diversify by bringing more men in.
Good point.
The schools, we're trying to engage all students. So there's this interesting schism that's starting to form in all of this here.
Well, started at the beginning almost. From 2014 on, I feel like collegiate esports hasn't gone anywhere, but plateaued in that effort. And we
with the exception of a Boise, like a Boise State,
people who are aware of it, right? Doc is aware of it.
Yeah.
Overall, right? And then I know you and I have raised some stink about like esports awards and who's really on the list of nominees and whatnot. So there's some issues at all levels for sure. One
of the biggest issues I'm seeing right now, Bubba, especially because some of the most valuable data that we can that people can get their hands on is the data that is in that teenage bracket, because it is so highly protected, because it is that 14 to 18-year-old. We're talking about minors, right? And so a lot of companies are coming in and saying, we're going to give you X, Y, or Z product free. Just sign your kids up. It's so easy. And what you're really signing away is not only just some of the most valuable data that's available, but you're also basically turning your kids over to the access to your children over to these programs. So as people are coming into the education space, and again, we're not talking about collegiate, I'm focusing in on the K-12 levels. Right. What we're starting to see now is, again, the monetization of the space, and the monetization is in data. So we as educators have to be hyper vigilant about how our students' data is being procured and how it is being used. And again, a lot of people, they see free and they see, hey, just sign up. It's so simple. I pointed out to some friends last night, the Play Versus website says, oh, it's easy, four steps, and you've got an esports program. And it's like, man, if you think your esports program is going to be 4 steps, none of this should be a turnkey solution. None of this is a turnkey solution. In fact, as we're starting to see as our programs evolve, there are some schools that are stepping away from the competitive scene, still building in that ecoverse, but looking at things from a casual perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I love that. And that's the way people are taking note and wanting to move that direction, because the educators have a voice, and the educators having a voice makes sense, because you guys know what the kids want. And the gameplay, you're exactly right. The gameplay is almost tertiary to what really needs to be done within the scholastic space for K through 12 esports. I want to dive into team building from the sense of what you see, because you're doing amazing things in Wisconsin when it comes to the school level with all 5 of the schools you mentioned, district level, the state level, the couple different organizations, nonprofit, obviously what Mike does and what you guys do. I don't think you guys are an anomaly on how awesome it is. I know other states, Ohio, Texas, we could name 14 of them, right? But I just thinking out there for when a college coach is watching this, and we have some high school folks as well watching, in middle school, the idea of getting a district compared to a school, compared to a state, compared to from the top down, bottom up, what is a better approach in direction? And obviously, please tie in why the curriculum, the education, that side is important. What's easier? What's harder when it comes to top down or bottom up from different levels in the K-12 space to getting people to use gaming in the classroom, not just esports, right?
Well, I mean, we've been using games forever. Since I was a kid in school, at least. So we'll just call that forever, because that was I started kindergarten in 1980. But gameplay has always been at the core of education, or at least it should be. That is where kids get to set rules, set boundaries, learn how things work in structure, how things can also change on a moment's notice. So gameplay is something that we have been leveraging for a long time. It's just that some games are approved because they have the tag of educational on them, and then some do not. Now, what's interesting when I say that is I know that Minecraft for a long time was seen by people as just a waste of time. And it's so amazing how once they, and this is no offense to Microsoft at all or anything, but when they put that Minecraft EDU logo on there, it's amazing how people's perspectives change because the branding changed. But as we're finding, there's some great people doing work with other games as well, such as Civ 6, I know is a very popular game that allows people to explore not just how cultures, what makes different cultures special, especially some of the ones that you may not read about in a history book.
What game was it? What game was it?
Civ 6.
Civ, S-I-V as in Victor?
Yeah, Civilization 6. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
But also how those cultures, when they press on each other for resources or access to resources or things like that, you start to see how conflicts can start to grow. I mean, a perfect example would be right now as we look to how the climate is changing around the world. And we're starting to see, like Syria devolving into, like, for example, Syria is devolving into civil war. It has been for many years. Yeah. And a lot of that just has to do with access to water. I mean, it has to do with access to food and resources. And so there's these underlying currents that regular games that kids already know and they already play can be used. A perfect example. I'll give you another one.
Please.
We had our virtual program last year. We decided we needed to have a game time. The game that the kids really wanted to play was Among Us. Okay. And you may say, well, where is the educational value in this? And Angelique Giannis at the Helix School in San Diego, California, she has been a rock star with this game as well, too, because it is a perfect game for teaching kids about the importance of how to do persuasive speaking. We teach persuasive speaking in school all the time, but it is, here's a topic, get up, talk about it. Among Us is taking kids into a game that they already love, that they're already intrinsically motivated to do, and saying, okay, now let's teach you how to do persuasive speaking, because you have to make a case. You have only 2 minutes, make a case. Are you the suspect or are you not the suspect? And that isn't gamification in the sense of school, because what we're doing is we're taking something that's an intrinsic motivation. Gamification works when it's something that kids don't want to already do. But that's the danger of gamification. That my research work at my PhD level is in self-determination theory. Overuse of gamification can be a problem because if you're already intrinsically motivated to do something, too much gamification can actually strip away that intrinsic motivation. So we have to be mindful about not just the games that we bring in, but how we're using them with students as well, because we can actually suck, because teachers love to take things and everything looks like a nail if you have a hammer, to overuse. So we have to be very strategic about how we use that as well too.
Well, I love that you taught me about that maybe a year and a half ago, about the overuse of gamification, and it has stuck with me. Well, everything you say really sticks with me, and I hope it sticks in my head, but it does, and that's why we appreciate you in this space. Before we bring in the others here, when we focus back on, let's this last part here on teams. When you're working with middle school students that you work with, I believe you still work with a lot of students who are in disenfranchised areas, that digital redlining, all this stuff that we got from our friend Keisha Howard, that term, and
digital redlining, digital poverty, and digital divide. Yep,
exactly. So when we talk about that team building, are there what kind of barriers happen or in place mentally, emotionally, physically, when it comes to trying to build team around something like a gaming club with your scholar athletes?
Scholar gamers.
I knew I had it
That's
wrong.
Okay. That's all right. That's the term. Yeah.
Scholar. Yes. Tell me if there's any barriers when it comes to really helping build a team. Is there something that's stopping really getting a hold of these kids and helping them see what they need to do and how this team structure works? Definitely when it comes to the areas you're working in, are there struggles in that? Is there something external happening that is a microcosm of really what happens everywhere? But it's just, I want to get your perspective on team building when it comes to students, especially in the middle school space.
Well, it right now, like I said, it still comes back to it time and time again. Every time I see it all the time, why we're doing this. This still is at the core of it, even though people are saying it's games. This is coming back to mental health. It really is.
Yes.
It is. And if you haven't set foot in a school that has returned after being off for 18 months plus or whatever, our school environments are much more violent, much more reactive right now in a lot of places. I'm not saying that's the rule across everything, but what I've seen in my experience in the Racine Unified School District, which Racine, if you don't know what it is really a microcosm of the United States in a lot of ways. We have multi-million-dollar homes on the lake. We have high concentrations of poverty and digital, like I said, digital divide, redlining, poverty in that sense. And what I see when I walk our schools, when I do go in, even though I am the virtual program director, I still have to go over to the school buildings, is talking to teachers and seeing students who, again, are in trauma. And and again, this translates further into the discussion of teamwork, because again, some of these kids just have been so desocialized because of the time being spent apart and being forced to be apart. That we're almost having to do preschool all over again in a lot of ways in some cases. So, and it raises some very big concerns again about how our programs are being built, how they're being funded, who we're inviting in to look at our spaces, because again, when you're working with students who are in trauma, and again, a lot of them are, even some of our high performing students are in trauma, it is concerning, again, how we have this amazing opportunity to use gaming culture, esports to, again, and use intrinsic motivation to power so many things. And we're just focusing on the low hanging fruit. To develop these quality teams, and again, to make your schools a cross section, your teams a cross section of your schools, it's not just that person putting up the flyer. You need to go out and recruit. And I don't just mean you. You need to share your story with social workers. You need to share your story with counselors. Your superintendent, your administration, your school board, your community needs to know about this. And most of all, that needs to know about this to help build your quality teams is your parents. We need to do a much better job of engaging parents in this space, because this isn't just a team of kids. This should be a community team. This should be an everybody team, because once you look at the science, once you look at the research, once you look at especially the neuroscience around game and gameplay, and not just the joy that it brings, but that it will push against a mental health crisis. Two ways that you push against a mental health crisis in the easiest sense. One is through positive adult interaction, which we want to hope our kids get. And the other one is through play. I heard an amazing statistic, because one of the biggest groups that have historically suffered astronomical mental health trauma are kids who identify as either gay, trans, LGBTQ communities.
Sure. Yes, sir.
One ally. It takes one adult ally, and their chances of suicide drop by 50%.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
And so again, we have to bring in, our esports program should be completely inclusive, and we should be bringing everybody in. And inclusive means, yes, let's invite everybody in.
Yeah.
But we also need to bring in forms of equity into this space as well, too. So if you do need to have a gaming group specific to women or LGBTQ community members, or, African Americans, because they may feel like the game titles that you have are not the ones that they play.
Right.
As examples, we need to bring into those spaces as well, too.
Well, folks, if you're watching here on twitch.tv/NJCAAE, please check out what James O'Hagan puts on socials and on his show, the Academy of Esports podcast, at TAO Esports.com.
That site just got redone. I found my inspiration, and I just relaunched the website. So head over to TAOesports.com and check it out.
It's good stuff. Stick around, James. Stay here. I'm going to bring in Donna and Corporal Flores. We're going to wrap up here for the last 13 minutes here before the gameplay gets going. And the gameplay, once again, is between two college teams, and that is Nassau Community College and playing Valorant versus Pennsylvania Highlands Community College here in 13 minutes. Right after this. You guys, I wish we had 3 hours to talk, because there's always a lot of good information when we dive into more of the psychological part of gaming and team building, when it comes to esports as well. I just want to throw out a question. What does it take to have a successful team? Who wants to chime in here? What does a successful team, and what is success, I guess, to help others learn what that really is? Anybody?
So first, I want to just say that I love the fact that you all we're discussing mental wellness and the trauma that everybody is, currently going through. I mean, huge, absolutely huge. Mental health and mental wellness is such a passion of mine as well. We're actually diving into components of that with the Cal State Chancellor's Office and some of the on-campus resources to better support these specific areas. So we're working with our student health and counseling centers there. So thank you very much for addressing that. What it really takes to have a successful team, 100% communication, and not just communication, effective communication. So you can solve so many challenges, whether that's in the game, right? You want to make sure you have people that are effectively communicating if they're out of position, or if, we need to go for the objective at a certain time, or if we need to pull back, right? So, and of course, depending on which game it is, if it's Rocket League, you want to make sure that you tell people you're in the center if you're about to throw it out in front of the net, right? So, I mean, there's different areas of communication, both in game, but then also out of game too. So when we're practicing as a team and we're getting together as a team, you want to make sure you have that trust that's built that we talked about earlier. So 100%, hands down, effective communication is the key to a successful team.
Love it.
I will dovetail off of that a little bit, because the trust is a huge component of this. Now, again, our successful teams, we have some general managers who are gaming experts, and then we have our Ted Lassos. I call them the Ted Lassos because they don't know the game, but they are passionate about working with kids. They are passionate about protecting kids. They're passionate about taking their interests and making them their own and saying, let's lift everybody up. The other part of this too, what that requires though, for that trust to be there, is transparency. There needs to be full transparency in our programs. And I see a lot of nodding heads, which is great, because that isn't just for what we do in district. That also goes for our partners as well too. So, I know a lot of people, for example, our state association, we compete through that. Some places work through HSEL, some do Flavor, whatever it is. But it isn't just the transparency of our partners too. We have to know exactly where everything's going. So when I get approached about, hey, we would like to work with you, a couple of things I'll do. And again, this is about developing that community of a team. I need to know, where is my data going? Who am I working with? Who's backing your company? Because guess what? What's happening right now in this space, and as a K-12 person, collegiate's a little different, but as a K-12 person, I'm working with minors. I want to know, is your company backed by weed, gambling? Those are where a lot of the esports dollars are going in right now. Or are you partnered with somebody, say like a Dr. Disrespect on your board? I have to be able to say, this company over here, that company that I'm going to present to our school board, we want to work with them. But if somebody does a Google search and looks at it and goes, well, wait a second, that's like having Dr. Disrespect give a presentation at our school board saying it's totally fine. I have to answer to that. And a question, and again, I have to ask questions around data. And I'm glad Corporal Flores is here, because I'm always curious about how the Army National Guard uses student data, especially minor student data, and because I don't know. So I want to know, is this data, because again, we want to build a community of trust, we want to build a community of transparency. Where is this data being used?
Yes, so absolutely, that's a great question. And a lot of the reason why we're in the space is actually education, right? So a lot of people don't know.
What about recruiting?
Yes, exactly. So a lot of it is with the education on, hey, this is a career path that's available to you, because the Army and the Army National Guard is not for everyone. It really isn't. That's why one of the biggest things, if you heard me say, is use it as a stepping stone. Some people join and they end up loving it and doing it for 20 years. I may not do 20 years. However, I know I signed up for and I know what I'm getting out of it. Now, when we talk about data, there are a lot of federal laws in place on how we collect and receive data. All of it, especially any HIPAA stuff, has to be encrypted, right? So especially being on the K through 12, the biggest thing is whenever we have a form to generate any sort of lead, right? It comes in, our system automatically checks, hey, are they 17 or older? If it's anything under 17, it gets nixed out. We don't even touch that. We can't, which is good, right? So once 17 and older, the reason why we stop at 17 is because with parental consent, at 17, you can join the Army National Guard, which is great, right? We always want the parents to be involved, even if it's 18, 19, 20, whatever the age is, you want to have your family to support you as well, right? Sure. So when it comes to data, that's how we process that. And there's federal laws out there that dictate how we operate and do what we do. Now, unfortunately, if someone doesn't know, they think, oh, we're collecting everything and doing all this stuff. And that's just simply not the case. And you don't know what you don't know, right?
Well, and again, that's the importance of the transparency, right? Because again, that's a question that a lot of people have. But what I go back to as well with this, again, because of my community, we have one of the great resources here in our community called Veterans Outreach for Wisconsin. I've done a lot of work with them. And, there's a lot, we have an issue again around mental health in our schools right now. But, again, it's like we're opening up a recruiting center, it feels like sometimes, in a psychologist's office with these kids who are in mental health trauma and saying, yes, we're not collecting your data, but here's the Army doing all these things for you. And I'm not doing this as a gotcha. Okay. I'm asking this strictly as a trust and transparency side. Absolutely. About how do we square then, if mental health is such an important component of esports, what is the Army National Guard doing to address it through recruiting or through your efforts through esports mental health?
It's a little bit of a tough one. So as far as doing anything particularly focused around that,
Mhm.
the way we use, so for example, esports within the Army National Guard is fellow soldiers were gamers as well, right? You'll start turning over rocks and you find out that soldiers of all ranks and culture, everything, right? We're all gamers and we use video games to cope like a lot of people do. Now, in regards to the specific question with a counselor saying, hey, the Army offers this, that would be with the school counselors, unfortunately,
Mhm.
and how they decide to process that because,
Please,
or maybe you can
don't
clarify a little bit
well,
more.
please don't misunderstand the thing, because I've had students who have ended up and done great things in the military. But again, I just worry about if we have these kids who are in mental health crisis, and again, you all are doing tremendous work to bring esports to a lot of places. How do we square, again, because I work with these veterans over at Veterans Outreach who, again, have gone into the military because of mental health issues, come out the other side, still have these mental health issues. What can the Army National Guard do to help us as educators address the mental health crisis? Again, because we want to build transparency and trust here as a team.
I love it, James. I do want to have this conversation.
Yeah.
We're going to get kicked off here shortly. Unfortunately, I do love the questions and the answers. I mean, this is stuff.
I'm sorry,
Sorry,
Bubba.
I know you. I know you.
Podcast host mode. I apologize,
I know you.
Donna. I didn't mean to cut you out on it either.
I know what you do. It's fine.
Okay.
I know how.
We'll have to continue the conversation on the next one. How
I'm
about
more
that?
than happy to chat. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Those are great
Please,
questions.
Corporal.
I love it. Absolutely.
These are the questions that we have in the space, and that's why we're getting them answered, and it's totally fine. Yeah,
100%.
totally good. Let's use this last 2 minutes here, and let's just recap. Let's just recap some team needs, building a team inside the space of gaming and esports, outside the space. Donna, I'll let you get this last word here for. I mean, obviously, with all the stuff we talked about today, but give me some last bit of advice here on why building a team is important, especially in the collegiate or K-12 space, in gaming or outside of gaming.
So it's such a broad answer to that question, right? So
Sure.
I'm serious. We're going to have to continue this probably on the next one. But really what university programs, even high school and middle school programs, can really focus on are the 4 pillars when it comes to esports and education. That's community, competition, entertainment, and education. And so when we're talking about forming our teams and that disparity with the single demographic receiving most of the scholarships, you can transform that, right? Because it's transformational leadership. You can transform that by really focusing, instead of on competition, but maybe focus on community, entertainment, education, and awarding those scholarships based on things other than competition, right? So taking a look at that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when it comes to team building, we really just want to make sure that we are creating these positive and healthy environments. And so the importance of mental wellness and mental health, 100% agree with you all, and look forward to talking a little bit more detail on that in the future.
Well, thank you guys so much once again, Corporal Flores, Donna Walters, James O'Hagan. If you're here on twitch.tv/NJCAAE, there's a QR code. You can win some fun stuff. We love for you guys to stick around for the match between the 2 colleges playing here shortly, Nassau Community College and Pennsylvania Highlands Community College, playing some Valorant here shortly. There's going to be
Nassau.
we got. What is that? I mean, you don't want the Hawks to win or something, James?
Nassau. I assume Nassau Community College is out on Long Island. That's where my family.
Oh, okay.
A lot of located. So
I was thinking you had some stuff about the Hawks and some catch up on your Twitter, so I just didn't know if that was.
I got rid of my Hawks stuff after that whole thing. So that's a totally off topic thing.
So please stick around. Corporal Flores, Donna Walters, James O'Hagan, thank you guys so much for being here. If you guys want to shut your cameras off, mute, I will talk to you guys afterwards. And thank you so much. Everybody else who's around, please, yes, stick around. There is it's right here on the red side of my face. There is a QR code. You can use your phone and you get a chance to win a HyperX Cloud 2 gaming headset, a HyperX Alloy FPS Pro keyboard, or HyperX Fury 5 mouse pad. All you got to do is use that code. You can also go to a link that will be coming up in the Twitch chat. It'll take you to an NJCAAE link. So if you don't know how to scan, if you're a boomer like me and you don't know how to scan QR codes while you're also watching something on your phone, which I don't even know how to do that myself because I'm a boomer, please use the link that's in the Twitch chat, and you'll be able to go to that giveaway, which I think is ending soon. So the better chance you have tonight. Stick around. We're going to keep you here live on twitch.tv/NJCAA. I've been Bubba Getter this whole time and continuing on in the future. Thank you so much for being here, guys. See you later. Have a great day.